Welcome to Tax File Special. I am your host, Laure Bala Hassan. Tax File Special is where we engage with industry leaders shaping Nigeria's economic and tax landscape. On this special edition of Tax File, we are spotlighting the key players influencing Nigeria's tax and economic direction. In this special episode, Arabirin Aderonke sits down for an in-depth conversation with our esteemed guests. And now, the news. To reaffirm the shared commitment of building a more inclusive, fair and forward-looking service, the Federal Inland Revenue Service Gender Desk and Women Network has been launched. Mariam Jode Adura reports that the event marked a giant step in the journey of equity, leadership and excellence within the service.
It is a profound honor and privilege to welcome you all to the official launch of the FRS Gender Desk and the FRS Women Network. Today marks a pivotal milestone, not only in the evolution of our institution, but in reaffirming our national commitment to the ideals of gender equity and inclusive governance. This event is not merely symbolic, it is a powerful declaration of our resolve to embed equity at the heart of our operations, to drive inclusive public service, and to position gender equality not just as a constitutional right, but as a strategic imperative in governance, especially within Nigerian tax system.
I would like to launch this initiative to the glory of God and for the benefit of all mankind. Thank you. As you are aware, the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs is committed to their lead of gender mainstreaming in Nigeria. Our strength is rooted in both our national policies, international commitments such as the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, adopted in 1995. Your Excellency, distinguished guest, the establishment of the FRS Gender Desk and Women's Network is clearly an act of strategic foresight. For this, I congratulate my brother, the chairman, and I congratulate the FRS.
The Executive Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, Dr. Zach Adedeji, has reaffirmed the agency's commitment to data-driven tax expenditure management, emphasizing its role in shaping fiscal policy and revenue generation. Speaking at a two-day workshop in Abuja on the theme, Tax Expenditure and its Effect on Government Revenue, Adedeji, represented by the Coordinating Director, Corporate Service Group, Mrs. Bolaji Akintola, stressed that accurate data collection is vital for effective tax expenditure.
The discussions have reaffirmed what we know to be true, that while tax incentives can play a meaningful role in stimulating investment and economic growth, they must be transparently managed, strategically targeted, and regularly evaluated.
You know, as we want to increase our revenue, we want to increase our collection, so we notice that it is also important, as we're trying to get more income, to also manage the incentives, which are the tax waivers that we give. So to manage them so that they're not abused, and then to monitor, how they've been dispensed, and just to monitor it generally. So it's like, as we're bringing in more revenue, we are trying to block leakages as well.
The newly elected Unit Executive Committee members of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS chapter of the National Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria, ASCSN, has been formally inaugurated. The ceremony, led by the Executive Chairman, FIRS, was attended by the National President of the ASCSN and members of the National Executive Committee. This marks a renewed commitment to collaboration and dialogue between the service and staff representatives. Comrade Lekwood Friday leads the new unit executive committee, which is expected to advocate for staff welfare and foster a productive working environment. Stakeholders have expressed optimism about the committee's role in advancing institutional excellence. And that's a wrap on the news. We now join Arabirin Adirunke for the interview segment.
Good day, fellow taxpayers. As we move through the peak tax filing season, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, is pleased to announce a special support initiative to make your tax filing process smoother and more convenient.
That's right. Starting from Saturday 14th through to Sunday 29th June 2025, our large taxpayer group, government and medium taxpayer group, as well as the emerging taxpayer group offices will be open on weekends.
This weekend opening is part of our continued efforts to put taxpayers first. We understand that weekdays can be busy, and that's why we are bringing our services closer to you when it matters most.
Whether you're filing returns, making inquiries, or simply need assistance with your compliance requirements, our dedicated teams will be on ground every weekend this June to support you.
We encourage you to take full advantage of this opportunity. Visit the nearest LTG, GMTG, and ETG offices to resolve your tax matters with ease.
Remember, tax compliance is not just a civic duty, it's a contribution to national development. Let's make it count together.
For more information, visit the FIRS website or follow us on our official social media handles.
Welcome back to Tax File Special. This is our exclusive interview segment where we bring you insights from the experts shaping tax policy and administration in Nigeria. Today, we have a very special guest, the Coordinating Director, Emerging Tax Group of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Kabiru Abba, PhD. Get ready for an enlightening conversation packed with expert perspectives on tax administration, compliance, and policy direction. Please stay tuned. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you too.
Can you give us a quick overview of the Emerging Tax Group and your role within the FIRS?
Well, thank you very much. The Emerging Taxpayers Group is one of the operational groups within the service that metamorphosed from General Tax Operations Group to small and eventually to Emerging Taxpayers Group. And this was unveiled during the 2024 corporate plan, when the service restructured the service. So basically, Emerging Taxpayers Group deals mainly with taxpayers that have a turnover of up to ₦1 billion. They seem to be small in nature, and we nurture them and eventually push them when they grow to medium and eventually to large taxpayers group. There is something very unique about the emerging taxpayers because for a lot of them, they are not even registered, they are not within our nets, and they are even startups kind of businesses. So we identify them and make sure that we nurture them, get them registered, and eventually make them to comply. And what is so unique about the Emerging Taxpayers Group, our focus mainly is on compliance, for the taxpayers to be compliant and be on board, and eventually, continue to do their businesses. The Emerging Taxpayers Group has 4 departments, very large departments to say. We have the Emerging Taxpayers departments in Lagos, Abuja, the whole of the north and the southern part of the country, making 4. And they are manned by directors who are very experienced. These directors were at one time tax controllers, state coordinators, and I happened by some coincidence to have supervised them in the past. So we're a formidable team, and we have 134 of such offices service-wide, and we have the audit arm, which is 108 also, scattered across the country. We also have what we call the satellite tax offices that we opened to make sure that taxpayers are close to, the tax offices so that they can go and do their normal filing businesses. So this, in a nutshell, this is what the Emerging Taxpayers Department group does.
Okay, so in terms of revenue generation,
Yes.
how is your group helping to tap into sectors that were previously undertaxed or even completely overlooked?
The emerging taxpayers are most of the time not too visible, and they are not really corporate in nature per se. That's the reason why I formed what I call the Taxpayers Reactivation Unit directly under my supervision, the Office of the CD. And what this unit does is the fact that most taxpayers, and millions of them, don't really come to do their tax obligations, and they are registered. So they seem to be inactive in our portal, but in the real sense of it, they're actually active. So that is where collaboration comes in with the department under the Compliance and Enforcement Group called the Tax Data and Mining Department. We go there to check to see those taxpayers that claim to be inactive. So we leverage on such data, and we have converted a lot of them to become active. I think from January to date, we've converted over 4,000 of such taxpayers, and it's even work in progress. So we divided these inactive taxpayers under all the 134 offices that we have, and used technology to create what we call the tax file manager. With a click of a button, you see the list of taxpayers that are inactive. Side by side, their bank transactions. So all that we need to do is to now write to them that you are not really inactive, that you are active because we've seen some transactions, and we'll write to them, we'll make sure that they come on board and register and begin to do their normal businesses. And at the end of it all, they now become potentials for audit in the future. And there was something that we also did at the Emerging Taxpayers Group. We cluster such businesses because there are so many of them. You can imagine all the nooks and crannies of the country within Nigeria, 36 states and the FCT. So we now cluster them into, sectors, so that we now appoint a relationship manager to manage them and ensure that they are well educated and enlightened to know the benefits of coming to, comply with their tax obligations. This has actually helped us to widen and even deepen the tax base. And a lot of them are actually coming on board, they're now realizing. And there's something that the service has done, which is also helping by creating what we call the tax wallet. The tax wallet is a system where a taxpayer has the liberty to even pay in bits and, in bits until he finally, finish paying all his liability. You see, when this corporate structure was unveiled, the management, the service rather, decided to create what we call the business intelligence units in all our tax offices. And this is a new creation because they now work on, industry reports around them. They do a lot of street combing. That has also helped us to identify taxpayers that are not in the net. So we have categories of those that are not in the net and those that are even registered but not complying. So the Business Intelligence Unit is a unit under every office that we have within the service. And this is what they basically do.
We won't talk about voluntary compliance.
Yeah.
It's often talked about. But what practical steps is your team taking to make taxpayers be more willing to comply on their own to pay taxes?
Yes. You see, if you simplify the system and probably simplify all the codes, we are happy that the tax bills are before the National Assembly, and this has simplified a lot of things. You see, when you make it so cumbersome, it is so difficult for the taxpayer to even come and pay. That's why we decided to open what we call the satellite tax offices, and we'll get them to go close to this taxpayer, which makes it easy for them. We have deployed help desks in all our offices so that if a taxpayer walks in, if he doesn't know what to do in there, you now guide him on how to, file and make his payments. And we engage with tax consultants, trade unions, and so many stakeholders in there, so that it's going to be from a start to a finish process. And there was something that we also did to make the taxpayer compliant and very, very happy to pay his taxes by integrating our offices. Prior to the coming of this administration, the able chairman, Dr. Zach, you will have to face the tax office, now go to pay the tax audit in another different location. But this time around, it's all in one building. So you start your processes in an office from your registration, to your filing, to your payments, to your audits, to your TCC and all that. And don't forget, you can do all this without even necessarily come to our locations. So by that, we have also decided to collaborate with the communications department to even localize all these things into local dialects so that they understand, because we want the message to trickle down to them. We have been to many parts of this country. We hold stakeholder meetings. We allow them to ask all the questions that they need to ask us, and we, answer them, and of course provide solutions. And this thing is really yielding very good results.
Thank you so much. That was educative.
Come on, you don't hear about the FIRS e-invoicing system wey be merchant buyer solution? Yes, so country people, na the future of business matter for we Naija. With e-invoicing, businesses go fit generate and manage invoices the digital way, which go help reduce paperwork and increase wetin oyibo dey call efficiency. FIRS don carry hand knack their chest, say they wan make tax compliance simple. This e-invoicing go help drive away mago and wuru from tax matter. E go improve as money go dey flow, and e go make doing business for we country easy. Other benefits be say no errors for tax matter, payments go dey sharp sake of say bye to delays. Join the revolution and take advantage of the plenty benefits of e-invoicing. Visit the FIRS website today, make you sign up and learn more on top www.einvoice.firs.gov.ng. FIRS, simplifying tax, maximizing revenue.
Every team faces its fair share of challenges.
Yeah.
What are some of the major hurdles you are dealing with right now, and how are you able to work through them?
You see, one of the major problems of taxation in Nigeria is the fact that we don't have what I would term as a unique identifier. Because you find a taxpayer with multiple taxpayer identification numbers, probably some don't even have a BVN and NIN and all that. In Nigeria, you find a taxpayer with multiple tax identification numbers and with different bank accounts that are not even tied to his business. So we have now decided to kind of, quote them together to make sure that a taxpayer has one taxpayer identification number. We also leverage on your BVN. So that has really posed a serious challenge to us, but we're now putting everything together with collaboration with other departments. Another major hurdle is the poor record keeping, attitude of our taxpayers. Because you see a taxpayer with a lot of volume of transactions, a lot of vendors, customers and all that, but he doesn't keep records. And taxation is about the laws based on the records that you provide, on what are your expenses, what are your income, what are your allowances and all that. So that actually poses a lot of problems for us. And there's another thing again. You see, most of these taxpayers fear audits. And I tell them most of the time they will go out to do enlightenment. Audit is nothing short of, okay, we want to see what you had done, whether it is right or wrong. As simple as that. Because the system we operate what we call a self-assessment regime. Taxpayers are allowed to go and do their businesses, go and make up their accounts and, submit. So when they do that, we now do some kind of risk profiling to go and check whether what you have done is correct or not. So most of these taxpayers tend to fear audits. So that now will propel them to begin to cut corners. And we tell them there are no cutting corners these days because everything has been, systemized now. In the sense, it's even better for you to even go and face the tax authorities. We have tried as much as we can to be very customer-centric. We have our help desks, we have the call centers, and taxpayers are free to walk in and we guide them to do the proper thing. And of course, we don't really get to overburden them. We do not burden them because if your threshold is below the 25 million naira as it is today, fine and good, you not pay until probably you grow. And there's another thing also, which is these taxpayers that you see, we also work together with the state boards of internal revenue. Because for the state's internal revenue, they deal with taxpayers that are enterprises and individuals. But even at that, they are supposed to pay VAT. So we do a lot of collaborations with the state spots of internal revenue services, across the country. We do some joint sensitizations, some joint audits, so as to see on how to at least make them to pay the VAT they're supposed to pay.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the broad explanation.
Thank you.
Looking to the future, what would you say are the top priorities or new initiatives your group is focusing on to drive better compliance and boost revenue collection?
Well, it will continue to be enlightenment and sensitization, which we do every quarter. We organize these sessions, with trade unions and, put them, like I said, in clusters. And then going forward, I would want to see a situation where a taxpayer will voluntarily come to, comply to pay his taxes. And this is actually working because FIRS now is so customer centric. So those days of fear of the taxman is no longer there. And these things are so easy to do now because from the comfort of your office or your home, you can do your tax things in there. So the issue of voluntary compliance, by the time the taxpayer knows that there are no hiding place for him, you have to come forward to do that. And then we collaborate so well with other groups in the service, like the compliance and enforcement group, because when we identify that, if you don't even come yourself, we write a letter to you, first, second, even a third reminder. If you don't, of course, we'll have to now collaborate with the compliance and enforcement group. We can just test to maybe put a lien on your account. Probably that will make you come forward with all your documents. I will not explain to you. And probably most of your transactions, some may not even be VATable. So you're not even expected to pay any form of VAT in there. Of course, and we know companies do make losses, so it's not cast in stone that if you come, you must pay taxes. It is what your businesses, tell and what your records also show.
We live in a digital age.
Sure.
Technology is our today and the future. So how is your group leveraging technology or data analytics to identify and monitor emerging sectors or new activities? Although I know you've said a whole lot about automation and all that. Can you just briefly explain how intentional you are with your team?
Yes. You see, we, most of the time, I tell my field officers, because we are in thousands and scattered all over, the country. So what I tell them, we actually check publications online, advertisements, and to some extent, we even get some monies to even give to our staff to go to lounges, to go to hotels, to while away time, and so that these taxpayers use private POS to even collect some payments. So all this has actually helped us. And you see, this era of social media, a lot of people, do all sorts with the social media. But as the taxman, as soon as I see it, of course, I know where exactly to see whether you are registered or not. And you can imagine us in maybe 7,000 of the staff under the Emerging Taxpayers Group. It has become a habit now. Even if you're driving around the town, you just have the habit of just checking to see if this particular taxpayer is registered or not. So that has actually helped us, to bring these people together. Yes.
Thank you so
very
much.
Sir. Thank you.
Wow, that was a valuable conversation with the coordinating director, Emerging Taxpayers Group, FIRS. We hope you have gained useful insights. A big thank you to our guests for joining us and sharing such valuable insights. We hope you found the conversation as inspiring as we did. See you next time.
And that's a wrap on this special episode of Tax File. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I am Lauri Bala Hassan. FIRS, simplifying tax, maximizing revenue.